Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wish to address my question to Attorney Harry Roque. With all due respect, Attorney, Mr. Chair, this is a common knowledge that Attorney Harry Roque worked as the spokesperson for former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. Does our resource speaker confirm this?
Yes, Madam Chair. Mr. Chair.
And Mr. Chair, can we please direct the resource speaker to describe ano po ba ang trabaho ng isang resource speaker ng Presidente?
As spokesperson, I was addressing the Malacanang Press Corps 3 times a week. I was preparing press releases on behalf of the President, and I was answering queries from the media on behalf of the President.
And will the resource speaker agree if I would say that a spokesperson position is a position of trust and confidence?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And by position of trust and confidence, it means that the President is giving you his full trust and confidence in all matters that might be within or even relevant to the discharge of your function as presidential spokesperson. Does the resource speaker agree?
Mr. Chairman, subject to regular consultations with the President.
And for the information of the committee, by the position of trust and confidence, it means that the moment the President lost the trust and confidence to the person, he can anytime terminate this official.
I confirm that, Mr. Chairman. I was appointed to a position with the rank of cabinet member.
I understand as well that Attorney Roque is one of the seasoned lawyers, as a matter of fact, internationally. Can you please enlighten us on your background as a lawyer?
I have been teaching international law in UP as well as in American University and National University of Singapore, total of more than 20 years already until now. And I was past president of the Asian Society of International Law. I'm also a member of the List Council of the International Criminal Court.
And having earned that reputation in the legal circle, Mr. Chair, and being the presidential spokesperson as well, I would assume that if ever there will be erroneous decisions on the part of the President, Attorney Harry Roque will be calling the attention and correcting or perhaps stopping the President from pursuing such erroneous action. Will the resource speaker agree to this?
I do not think I had that function. I could only speak for the President. I could not actually countermand him. I could not correct him. He is my principal.
But considering, Mr. Chair, that he is a lawyer and a spokesperson as well, pagka ho ba may maling desisyon ang Presidente, will you not volunteer your legal expertise to correct the President?
Unless I am asked for my opinion, Mr. Chair, I will not volunteer, Your Honor.
Mr. Chair, I wish to invite the attention of Attorney Harry Roque to PD 1869. This is described as the Charter of PAGCOR. And as a matter of fact, it defines what illegal gambling is. I also wish to invite his attention to Republic Act number 9487, which extends the franchise of PAGCOR to another 25 years. Again, it defines what illegal gambling is. Ultimately, Mr. Chair, I wish to invite the attention of Attorney Roque to Executive Order number 13. And I wish to state for the record, Mr. Chair, that for the very first time, the term online gaming was mentioned in Executive Order number 13. This is something which is not mentioned, which is not provided in PD 1869, as well as in RA 9487. May I ask the resource speaker, when the President issued Executive Order number 13, don't you think he legislated?
I am unable to make an opinion because when I was a spokesperson, legal matters such as these are directed to the Presidential Legal Counsel or to the Office of the Solicitor General or to the Legal Office of the President under the Executive Secretary.
Mr. Chair, this representation wishes to solicit the opinion of a legal expert, our resource speaker, Attorney Harry Roque. I am sure that with the number of hearings he went through already, he has come across Executive Order number 13. This is the presidential issuance during the time of former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, mentioning the term online gaming for the very first time. The term that was never mentioned in PD 1869 and even in RA 9487. I hope we can be enlightened by the legal expertise of our resource speaker. When the President issued EO number 13, providing for the term online gaming for the very first time, don't you think, Attorney Roque, that the President legislated?
Again, Your Honor, I am unable to answer because that is not within my expertise. I have mentioned that my expertise is in the field of public international law, having taught and practiced that. And I am sorry because I'm not very familiar with Executive Order number 13. In fact, my only knowledge of Executive Order number 13 was in the last hearing when former Chair Domingo said that President Duterte regulated online gambling, no, through Executive Order number 13. But I am unable to give an opinion now, not being thoroughly familiar with the EO as well as the underpinnings behind the issuance of Executive Order number 13. I'm so sorry, Your Honor, it's not within my field of expertise.
With all due respect to our resource speaker, Mr. Chair, I find it strange na sa dami po ng hearing na ina-attendan niya, both in the Senate and in the Congress, all pertaining to POGOs, he have not come across EO number 13, from which the POGOs or the online gaming started. But I'm sure for the next concern that I wish to raise, our resource speaker is very much familiar with, because this is fundamental in the study of law. There is in law the principle of separation of powers. And I wish to share the case of Belgica versus Ochoa, GR number 208566, November 19, 2013, on the constitutionality of the Priority Development Assistance Fund. For the information of the Filipino people, I wish to read, the principle of separation of powers refers to the constitutional demarcation of the three fundamental powers of the government. In the celebrated words of Justice Laurel Inangara versus Electoral Commission, it means that the Constitution has blocked out, with deft strokes and in bold lines, allotment of power to the executive, the legislative, and the judicial departments of the government. To the legislative branch of the government through Congress belongs the power to make laws. To the executive branch of the government through the President belongs the power to enforce laws. To the judicial branch of government through the court belongs the power to interpret laws. I wish to go back to Attorney Roque. Attorney Roque, don't you think that the President encroached upon the power of the Congress when he issued Executive Order number 13, providing for online?
Well, Mr. Chair, first and foremost, I argued that case of Belgica. I was lawyer in the Supreme Court for Mr. Belgica, and I confirmed the principle of separation of powers. However, as I said, although it is not my expertise, I will give my my opinion, my candid opinion. And that is, under our scheme of things, executive issuances, legislative enactments are all presumed to be constitutional unless proven otherwise. So the status of Executive Order number 13, unless challenged in court, is that it is presumed to be constitutional. Executive orders being in the nature of implementing existing legislation, Your Honors.
Mr. Chair, there's a principle in law. When the law does not provide, we should not provide. When the law does not include, we should not include. If the substantive law creating PAGCOR does not provide for online gaming, then no executive issuances should provide for online gaming. Let us all be reminded by the legal maxim, inclusio unius est exclusio alterius. Kung wala naman pong sinabi dun sa substantive law, then the procedural law should not provide. Let us be reminded that the procedural law should always yield in favor of the substantive law. Mr. Chair, I wish to invite the attention of the committee to Executive Order number 13, the presidential issuance which provides for the very first time for the term online gaming, the term that was never mentioned in the legislation that was passed by Congress. In the 8th whereas clause, it says, clarifying the extent of authority of gambling regulators, particularly with regards to online gaming. And then we have Section 3, clarification on online gambling, which technically defines what online gambling is. And then under Section 4, Mr. Chair, it emphasizes the oversight function of the Office of the President over all forms of gaming, and that includes online gaming. I humbly submit, Mr. Chair, that EO number 13 brings online gambling into life. And I do not understand, Mr. Chair, why this should circumvent the law that was passed by Congress, creating the PAGCOR and providing the authorities to regulate all the gaming and gambling activities. Once again, Mr. Chair, I wish to raise the reason why the principle of separation of powers is very important. The principle of separation of powers and its concepts of autonomy and independence stem from the notion that the powers of the government must be divided to avoid concentration of these powers in any one branch. The division, it is hoped, would avoid any single branch from lording its power over the other branches or the citizenry. To achieve this purpose, the divided power must be wielded by co-equal branches of government that are equally capable of independent action in exercising their respective mandates. Lack of independence would result in the inability of one branch of government to check the arbitrary or self-interest assertions of another or others. To wind up, Mr. Chair, I wish to state for the record that when the President issued Executive Order number 13, it is the humble submission of this representation. He legislated, he amended, he repealed the law, an act which violates the fundamental principle of separation of power. The executive should not encroach upon the power to legislate that belongs exclusively to the Congress. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman Jinky Luistro. So in other words, PAGCOR, ang daming online gaming. Hindi lamang Pogo. Di ba? We have like e-bingo. Di ba? E-loto. Ano pa iba? Ha? Pigo. So, hindi, isabong, wala na isabong eh. So, in other words, lahat ng E. Di ba? So, Al. So, kasi ang daming E nito eh, di ba? But we are focusing only on the Pogos eh. Maybe you have to consider this eh. Kasi maraming, baka may mag-question eh, no? And I think we have to legislate. If we wanted really to make this as legal as possible and to follow the law because we are all abiding citizen, so we need some amendments on the existing law para to strengthen yung ating operation. Because if you follow the narrative of Congressman Luistro, it all follows that all those E are all illegal. Am I correct? Chairman, I'll thank you. Sige, Chairman.
Well, as has been explained in previous hearings, the real basis of PAGCOR is the said EO that was issued then by former President Duterte. So, I suppose unless it is questioned, it is unless it is brought to court or questioned by whoever, then it will remain to be the law that regulates the entire online gaming industry. I believe that also PAGCOR is here to regulate. And for the information of everybody, prior to my assumption to office, truly what was seen is there is really a birth of a new kind of gaming. Originally, it was just land-based casinos, but at the outset when the pandemic came, then the birth of e-gaming really prospered. And very clear from the data that we have now, Chairman, the trajectory of e-gaming is just already too high, no? And if we will not regulate it, then this all goes to the gray market. But with proper regulation, and that is what PAGCOR's leadership is doing now, we're able to regulate all these underground or gray market players, and in turn, we are able to collect revenue, which we give back not only to the government, but to our countrymen, the Filipino people.
Okay. Thank you,
Mr.
Chairman
Chair.
Altenco.
Mr. Chair, may I interject in relation to your question?
If Congressman Chairman Ace Barbers will allow it, we will allow you to
May I,
interject.
Chairman
Okay daw.
Barber?
Go ahead.
Executive Order number 13 is an order of the former president against all illegal gambling, di ba? With this, makikita natin dito that those that are giving licenses to gambling are actually protected in this executive order. For example, PAGCOR is not the only one given the right to give licenses, but even Republic Act number 7922 creating the Cagayan Economic Zone Authority can manage gambling actually. Republic Act 9490, tayo rin ang gumawa nito. Created the Aurora Pacific Economic Zone and People Authority also can manage online gambling. Republic Act number 9728, created the authority of the Freeport area of Bataan, can also manage and operate online gambling. Therefore, Mr. Chair, it is not only PAGCOR, and I believe that PAGCOR should not only be the one invited here. but even those that are officers of the Cagayan Economic Zone, Aurora Pacific Economic Zone, and Freeport area of Bataan should be invited to shed light on gambling. Particularly, they also know what illegal gambling means. Mr. Chair, yun lang po.
Mr. Chair, can I make an interjection?
Okay, okay, go ahead.
As a comment to the Honorable Abante, he made mention of the Aurora Special Economic Zone, Cagayan Economic Zone and Freeport, and Port Area of Bataan. I just wish to enlighten the committee that all of these three free zones were created by virtue of a law that was passed by Congress. That those are RA 9490, RA 7922, and RA 9728. The law is the one which provided this free economic zone, the power to operate an online gambling. But the point which is at hand, Mr. Chair, during the interpellation with our resource speaker is the power that was assumed by the PAGCOR by virtue of EO number 13. It went beyond what is provided in the legislation that was passed by Congress. And to be specific, Mr. Chair, that is PD 1816 and RA 9487. Well, I have to admit I am not so certain about PD 1869 because this was passed in 1983 before the 1987 Constitution. Pasensya na po, ang inabot ko lang po 1987 Constitution. But I assume that during that time, perhaps, the President still has the power to pass a law, but as effective 1987 Constitution, strictly, we are following the separation of powers, meaning it is only the Congress who can pass the law. And to go back to my point, Mr. Chair, if 9487 does not provide for the power to issue license to online gambling, then EO 13 is an ultra vires issuance for providing one which is not provided in the substantive law.